The airport buzzed with the usual chaos, families hugging goodbye, travelers rushing past gates and announcements echoing overhead. Amid the noise stood 16-year-old Eli, lanky and introverted, clutching his worn guitar case like a lifeline. Just feet away a ring light glowed, capturing the booming voice of Chase Vex, a famous YouTuber known for his prank content. Chase spotted Eli. Alone, awkward, clearly nervous. Without warning, the camera swung toward the teen. Chase said, "Hey guys, look what we got here. A little rock star waiting for mommy." His audience laughed online in real time. Eli froze. Laughter rippled through the terminal. Chase walked circles around him, mocking his thrift store, clothes, and overgrown curls. Eli whispered, "Please stop." But Chase leaned in, smirking. "What's that, gonna cry?" That 6-second clip would ignite the firestorm. It wasn't just cruelty, it was public humiliation. The world didn't know yet, but Eli's silence was louder than anyone expected. The video posted within minutes. Chase's followers, nearly 12 million strong, erupted with laughter. Comments poured in, laugh emojis, insults, memes. Beta Bieber, one wrote. Hope he packed a pacifier. But something else happened too. A few voices pushed back, asking why humiliating a random teen was funny. Still, the mob laughed louder. Eli sat outside the terminal alone, scrolling through the clip that now had over 800,000 views. He could barely breathe. His hands trembled as he locked the screen. His mom texted, "You okay? Plane boards in 20. Eli wiped his eyes and responded, "Yeah, all good." But everything inside him felt broken. He wasn't used to attention, especially not like this. And deep down, a storm was building. A need to respond. Not with words, but with what he did best. Eli had always been quiet. Not shy, but deliberate. He felt deeply, spoke softly, and created passionately. Music wasn't just an interest, it was his oxygen. He started playing guitar at 8, taught by his grandfather. Now, every chord was muscle memory. Every melody, a memory of survival. That night, in the silence of his hotel room, he pulled out his guitar. The world mocked his silence, so he answered with sound. His fingers moved slowly at first, then faster, pouring his humiliation into the strings. He wasn't playing for revenge. He was translating pain into poetry. No audience. No spotlight. Just him, his music, and the need to breathe. And someone outside his door paused, listening. It had begun. The next morning, Chase uploaded a follow-up. "People are so sensitive," he scoffed, lounging in a business class seat. "I gave that kid exposure?" The video racked up 1 million views in 2 hours. Meanwhile, Eli remained silent online. But the person who had overheard him in the hotel hallway posted something, just a caption and a 15-second audio clip of Eli playing guitar behind a closed door. "Whoever this is, I haven't cried this hard from music in years." The post had no names. No tags. Just raw sound. It went unnoticed for a while. But in a matter of hours something strange began happening. Shares. Comments. Duets. Musicians trying to play along. Something was awakening. That night, Eli's phone buzzed endlessly. He finally opened it. The clip of him playing through the hotel door now had 20,000 shares. People were begging to know who he was. "That sound saved my life tonight," one comment read. Eli blinked, stunned. It wasn't the spotlight he wanted. It was to be understood. And for the first time, people were listening. Really listening. He didn't smile, not yet. But he picked up his guitar, turned on his phone's camera, and pressed record. He didn't say his name. Didn't explain. Just played. The music filled the room, then the screen. And once uploaded it started moving, faster than anything he'd ever felt. Act 1 closed, not with a roar, but a quiet rising symphony. Back home in his small town, Eli stepped off the airport shuttle and into silence. No camera crews. No fans. Just his mom waiting beside their beat-up sedan, arms folded and eyes searching his face. She didn't ask about the video. Didn't mention the internet. She just said, "You okay?" Eli nodded. "Yeah, just tired." But something in him had shifted. That clip, 15 seconds of sound, had found a life of its own. Comments flooded in from every Timazon. Teachers, artists, therapists, all saying the same thing. Your music speaks. Eli returned to his bedroom, a cramped space filled with posters, notebooks, and the scent of wood polish on his guitar stand. He placed the case on his bed, opened it, and stared at the instrument, like it was the only truth left in the world. What had once been a private refuge now had weight. Eyes were on him. And for the first time, he didn't feel invisible. That evening, Eli scrolled through the comments again, this time really reading them. "You healed something I didn't know was broken. Can't stop replaying this. Who is this boy?" The words scared him, but they also lit a fire. He had always played alone, never performed live, never thought anyone would care. But now, the silence was gone. The world was knocking, and Eli had a choice: hide or answer. He texted his cousin Mia, a tech-savvy college student, and asked, "Can you help me record a real video?" She replied in seconds, "Yes, be over in 20. Eli's hands trembled, not with fear this time, but something else. Hope. My want. A new kind. The kind that demands courage. He cleaned his guitar, adjusted his strings, and stared at himself in the mirror. Still just a kid in second-hand clothes. But now the world was watching. Mia arrived with a DSLR, tripod, and the energy of a small production crew. She grinned as she set up in Eli's room. "I knew you had this in you," she said. Eli looked down. "I'm not ready for all this." Mia adjusted the lens and said, "The world disagrees." She framed the shot, Eli, guitar in lap, against a backdrop of warm fairy lights and sound foam. They quickly stuck to the walls. "Just be you," she whispered. He nodded. Deep breath. "Mesn't." Then he played. No edits. No gimmicks. Just raw melody, voice cracking slightly, fingers dancing across strings like it was instinct. When he finished, there was a pause. Mia behind the camera wiped a tear and said, "Holy shit, Eli, this is it." And he believed her. The video went live at 9:03 p.m. No title. No introduction. Just a boy, a guitar, and a closed-door performance. Within an hour, it had 12,000 views. By midnight, 60,000. Comments poured in like a tidal wave. "Who is he? This feels like pain and hope combined. Can someone sign him already?" Eli didn't sleep. He refreshed the page until his fingers ached. He didn't know what viral felt like, but now he did. And it wasn't fireworks. It was waves, overwhelming and rising fast. In another part of the internet, Chase Vex noticed. He saw the same clip everyone was sharing and scoffed. "No way, that's the airport kid," he muttered to his crew. But the view count said otherwise. Eli's sound wasn't just being heard, it was becoming undeniable. By morning, a music producer in Nashville posted Eli's clip, captioning, "Rawest new voice I've heard in years. DM me." A trending hashtag emerged, #thatguitarkit. Journalists started reaching out. Eli's inbox overflowed. Meanwhile, his mom watched silently from the kitchen, clutching her coffee like a shield. "You okay?" she asked again. Eli nodded, eyes still glued to his screen. But this time she asked more gently, "You ready for people to know who you are?" Eli didn't answer right away. He looked around at the life he'd always known, walls filled with quiet dreams, and finally said, "I think I have to be." Outside, a car honked. Mia had returned. Bigger camera. New mic. Same belief in her eyes. Eli picked up his guitar. The world had heard a whisper. Now, it was time to give them a song. 3 days later, Eli trended on the front page of every major platform. Interviews were being requested, remixes made, fan art drawn. But amid the rising noise, Eli stayed grounded. He still practiced daily in his room. Still brushed his teeth before playing like it was a ritual. But now, outside his window, reporters waited. Chase Vex watched in disbelief as the weird airport kid eclipsed his own content. His latest prank video barely scraped 200K views. His team begged him to issue a fake apology, maybe even ask Eli for a collab. "You need to pivot," his manager warned. Chase sneered. "I made that kid famous. He owes me." But he was wrong. Eli didn't need him anymore. The world was watching Eli for what he created, not what Chase destroyed. And deep down, Chase felt the shift. For the first time in years, he wasn't in control. Eli agreed to his first live stream. Nothing fancy, just him, a mic, and a promise to answer questions and play a few songs. Over 90,000 people tuned in. He wore a plain hoodie, cheeks red from nerves. "Hey," he said softly. "Didn't expect this many people." The chat exploded with hearts and "Woo, love you Eli" messages. He played a song he'd never shared before, one written during a panic attack a year ago. Midway through, his voice cracked. "Sorry," he whispered, but the comments flooded with support. One read, "Don't be sorry for being real." He smiled faintly. This wasn't about fame anymore. It was connection. Healing. Music had always been how he survived. Now, it was helping others survive too. By the end of the stream, he wasn't shaking anymore. He signed off with, "Thanks for hearing me." And he meant every word. Chase finally broke his silence. He posted a video titled, "Let's Talk." It opened with him in a minimalist studio, serious expression, clasped hands. "I want to apologize to Eli," he began. "I was wrong to mock him. I was being immature." But something felt off. Comments rolled in fast. "You're only sorry he's more famous than you. Why didn't you tag him?" Chase avoided saying Eli's full name. Didn't link his channel. Didn't show the airport clip. It wasn't an apology. It was damage control. Meanwhile, Eli didn't respond. He didn't need to. His silence spoke louder than Chase's carefully rehearsed remorse. And the internet noticed. A side-by-side comparison video titled, "One is real, one is not," went viral within hours. The tide had fully turned. Chase's empire wasn't crumbling. It was evaporating. Eli got an email titled, "We'd like to invite you to perform." It was from Ekastage, one of the largest youth music showcases in the country. They'd seen the video. Wanted him to close the Friday lineup. Eli stared at the screen in disbelief. "They want me to headline?" he asked aloud. Nia screamed over speakerphone. "You're not a moment, you're a movement." But beneath the excitement, fear simmered. What if he wasn't ready? What if the world only liked the mystery, not him in person? But deep down, Eli knew the truth. He hadn't come this far to hide now. He texted back one word, yes. He would play. Not to prove anything, but to become everything he already was. The journey from silence to stage had begun. As the performance day neared, rehearsals intensified. Nia helped arrange lighting. His mom ironed his outfit. Even his younger brother, who rarely spoke much, left a sticky note on Eli's mirror. "You've always been my hero." Eli choked back tears. The room where he once hid was now his creative war room. On his wall, a handwritten lyric sheet read, "They laughed when I was quiet. Now silence is their echo." He practiced under a single hanging bulb, shadows dancing with every chord. Meanwhile, clips of his rise were spliced into fan-made montages, playing to millions. He hadn't just survived the mockery, he transformed it. And as the stage lights approached, Eli wasn't nervous anymore. He was ready. The boy with the guitar had become something bigger. Not viral. Not famous. Real. Dot. The day arrived. Backstage at Ecostage, Eli stood surrounded by buzzing crew, light techs, and echoes of performers rehearsing. It was chaos, but inside him there was calm. He had practiced. He had felt every note. He had lived every lyric. Nia adjusted his collar, whispered, "You're gonna break the world open." His name appeared on the massive LED screen, Ellie Stone. He had never seen his name that large. A producer approached, handing him an in-ear monitor. "You've got 5 minutes. Ready?" Eli didn't smile. He nodded. He didn't need hype. He needed honesty. From behind the curtain, he peeked at the thousands gathering beyond the stage. Some held signs. Others just waited silently. No one knew him personally. But somehow, they felt him. And now he was ready to be felt completely. The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the crowd. Then, spotlight. Eli stepped into it, alone. No band. No intro. Just a boy and his guitar. He walked slowly to center stage, heart pounding, but posture steady. The crowd waited. Cameras recorded. And then, he played. The same piece he had first recorded from his hotel room, now given breath under stadium acoustics. The first note was clean. Vulnerable. Then more, layered, rich, haunting. Silence became melody. Fear became power. And thousands listened, not with noise, but with reverence. Halfway through the song, Eli looked up. Tears welled in his eyes, but he didn't break. He finished with a single whisper. "Thank you." A beat of silence. Then, eruption. Not cheers of fame, but something deeper. Resonance. Talk. The music hadn't entertained them. It had changed them. The performance was streamed live, and within minutes, it was trending worldwide. Tweets like, "Who is Eli Stone?" and "I just cried in a crowd of 3,000, overtook every feed. But one face in the crowd stayed frozen. Chase, Vex, Dyke. Sunglasses on, hoodie pulled low, watching from the VIP box in stunned silence. He hadn't expected this. Not this. He thought maybe Eli would falter, or at best be good but forgettable. But what he witnessed was something else. The crowd wasn't reacting like fans. They were responding like witnesses. Something sacred had just happened, and Chase knew, deep down, that had become a footnote in someone else's story. For the first time, the joke was no longer funny. He wasn't watching content. He was watching greatness. And it burned. After the show, Eli exited the stage to a wave of hugs and praise. But he avoided the green room. Instead, he found a quiet hallway, sat on the floor, and breathed. That's when Chase appeared, out of nowhere, like a shadow that forgot how to vanish. He walked over, slow, and rehearsed. "Hey," Chase said. Eli looked up. "You were incredible. Like, I didn't expect." Eli stood, quiet. Chase continued, "I wanted to say sorry. For, the airport thing." Silence. Then Eli said, "You didn't make me. You tried to break me." Chase's smile faded. "Look, maybe we can collab or—" Eli shook his head. "No." Calm, dense, steady. Wow. Undeniable. He walked past Chase, leaving him in the hallway alone, surrounded by noise, but suddenly irrelevant. It wasn't revenge. It was power reclaimed. Later that night, a clip surfaced, not of Eli performing, but of his confrontation with Chase. A security cam caught the audio. Eli's words, "You tried to break me," became a mantra remixed into edits and fan tributes. It was raw, unfiltered, and real. The internet exploded. Eli was no longer just a viral moment. He was a symbol of resilience, of strength. Strength. Chase tried to tweet through it, Selfies, jokes, even a mock guitar tutorial, but no one cared. Sponsors ghosted him. Collaborators backed off. His empire wasn't just falling, it was being replaced. Eli's performance had rewritten the narrative. It wasn't about being loud. It was about being true. And in a world full of noise, the quiet boy had spoken the loudest of them all. Eli woke up the next morning to find his name plastered across headlines. Eli Stone silences the internet. The boy with the guitar, a movement begins. Offers flooded in, record labels, talk shows, podcast interviews. But he turned most of them down. Not because he was arrogant, but because he was intentional. I just want to keep playing, he told Mia, who was now acting as his de facto manager. Let the music grow before the machine gets to it. She smiled. Spoken like a legend already. Meanwhile, Chase Vex tried launching a redemption arc with a docuseries titled From Viral to Victim, but it barely broke 30K views. Eli didn't have to fight anymore. The world was defending him now. He returned to his roots, small live streams, honest songwriting, and authentic moments. Fame hadn't changed him. It had revealed him. Eli's high school music teacher invited him back for a surprise guest session. The auditorium filled with curious students. Many had seen the viral videos. A few still remembered the quiet kid who once refused to play at talent shows. When Eli walked in, guitar slung over his shoulder, the room hushed. He sat on a stool center stage and simply said, "I used to be afraid to share, not anymore." Then he played a new song, written just days before. Raw, wool, honest, dedicated to the ones still finding their voice. By the end, half the room was in tears. The teacher whispered, "You didn't just find your power, you're helping others find theirs." Eli didn't need charts or trophies. Moments like this, that was the reward. Connection, not performance. Purpose, not spotlight. Later that week, Eli visited his grandfather's grave. The man who first taught him how to hold a guitar, how to listen more than speak, how to feel the music. Eli knelt beside the stone, calloused fingers brushing the engraved name. "You told me one day I'd be heard," he whispered. "I didn't believe you, but you were right." He placed a small music sheet at the base, his newest song, handwritten and folded. Then he played a few quiet chords. Not for cameras. Not for fans. Just for the man who started it all. A breeze picked up as he strummed. Leaves rustled softly. It felt like a reply. Eli stood, wiped his eyes and smiled. Not out of sadness, but peace. The circle had closed. But the journey was far from over. Chase Vex uploaded one final video, titled simply, "Goodbye." In it, he looked tired, distant from his once energetic persona. "Maybe I forgot what this was all about," he admitted. No sponsors. No trending tabs. Just a man staring into a webcam. To Ellie, if you ever see this, I hope you stay who you are. You deserve all of it. Then, he logged off. Deleted his channel hours later. The world barely noticed. Fame had moved on. Eli didn't even comment. He didn't gloat. He didn't repost it. Because it was never about revenge. He had already won, in a way Chase could never understand. Not with numbers, but with meaning. Chase faded quietly. And Eli kept playing. Eli stood on a rooftop one evening, guitar in hand, overlooking the small town he once felt trapped in. Now it felt wide open. Mia recorded as he played under the stars, one final track for a short documentary being made about his rise. The wind moved gently through his hair. His voice, steady and unshaken, carried into the night. When he finished, she whispered, "That's the one." He nodded, quiet. At that moment, everything made sense. The mockery, the silence, the spotlight. They weren't separate pieces. They were the journey. Not a fairy tale. Not revenge. Just truth. As the final shot zoomed out, Ellie, alone, playing to the stars, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning. The sound of someone who would never be ignored again. Eli was invited to appear on the Nova Sessions, an indie music showcase known for spotlighting breakout artists. It was intimate, one song, one shot, one take. No flashy production. Just truth. The set was minimal, brick walls, soft amber lights, a single condenser mic. As Eli stepped onto the carpeted stage, he carried no nerves this time. Just focus. He sat, tuned his guitar, and whispered into the mic, "This one's for the kid at gate C21. Then he played. The chords were crisp, his voice warmer, more confident, but still full of soul. It was growth in real time. The crew didn't interrupt. When he finished, the room stayed silent for several seconds. No one dared break it. Then the producer finally said, "We've never had anything this raw." That night, the Nova Sessions reached its highest view count in history. After the Nova Sessions aired, Eli received a handwritten letter in the mail. Not an email. Not a tweet. A real letter. It was from a young girl named Harper, in Missouri. She wrote, "I got bullied at school last week. I saw your video. I think I'll be okay now." Eli read it 3 times. He sat at his desk, letter in hand, tears silently tracking down his cheek. He didn't need awards. This was enough. He wrote back, sealing the reply with care, "You already are okay. Keep going." For every stage he played, there were dozens like Harper in the background. Kids who needed something real in a world obsessed with filters. And Eli, just by being himself, was giving them permission to be the same. One evening, Eli got a surprising invitation to speak at a youth leadership summit. Not to perform, but to talk. At first he hesitated. He wasn't a speaker. But Mia said, "Just tell the truth. That's what you've always done." On stage, facing a sea of high schoolers, Eli stood with no guitar, just a mic. "I was mocked at an airport," he began. "I thought silence would protect me, but I was wrong." He shared how music became his voice, how pain became melody, and how being vulnerable saved him. There was no applause at first, just stillness, listening, and then a slow, genuine standing ovation. Afterward, a student approached him, voice shaking. "You said what I've been too scared to admit." Eli smiled and replied, "Then say it loud." The boy nodded, finally exhaling. That moment would stay with both of them forever. Despite the rising acclaim, Eli never forgot where he came from. He returned to the airport where it all started, gate C21. The same terminal, the same bench. Only this time, no one was mocking. No ring lights. Just Eli, his guitar, and a local videographer capturing it quietly. He sat where he once stood frozen and played that same song, note for note. Travelers slowed down. Some stopped. Some cried. The full circle moment was raw and healing. Later, the clip titled, "Return to the Gate," went viral, not because it was flashy, but because it was real. The boy who had once been humiliated now commanded silence through beauty. It wasn't revenge. It was reclaiming space. That bench wasn't a scar anymore. It was a monument to survival. That same night, Eli stood outside the airport, staring up at the sky. The stars blinked faintly between city lights. He thought about everything, the mockery, the silence, the noise that followed. And still, what mattered most wasn't the fame or the followers. It was that he never gave up on his voice. Mia joined him, offering a cup of vending machine coffee. "You killed it in there," she said. He chuckled. "Felt like I buried a ghost." She nodded. "More like you gave it peace." They stood in silence. No cameras. No comments. Just 2 people on a sidewalk, breathing in a moment I'd earned. Eli took one last look at the terminal, then turned away. Not as the kid who got mocked, but as the artist who rose above it all. 6 months later, Eli stood backstage at the Aurora Awards, an international showcase honoring breakthrough musicians. He wasn't nominated, but he was closing the show. He wore a tailored black suit, but his guitar remained the same old one, scratched, weathered, beloved. As the host announced his name, the lights dimmed. Please welcome the artist whose silence became a voice for millions, Eli Stone. He stepped out to a standing ovation before playing a haunting new ballad. The lyrics spoke not of fame or revenge, but of healing. They tried to shrink me into silence, but I grew louder without sound. By the final chord, the audience was on its feet again, this time not in surprise, but in reverence. Eli wasn't just performing. He was reminding everyone what authenticity felt like in a world starved for it. Backstage, journalists lined up to ask questions. One finally asked what everyone was thinking. If you could go back to that airport moment, would you change anything? Eli paused. Not for drama, but reflection. No, he said. It taught me who I am. He glanced at the reporter and added, it also taught me who I'm not. That clip aired across networks, trending again, not because it was dramatic, but because it was clear. No anger, no bitterness, just power reclaimed. Chase Vex, now living off-grid according to rumors, wasn't even mentioned anymore. The narrative had shifted entirely. Eli was no longer a story that started with mockery. He was a story that began with music and ended in truth. The next morning, Eli sat on a quiet beach, shoes off, jeans rolled, his guitar beside him in the sand. No crew. No cameras. Just sunrise and waves. He strummed idly, the chords light and peaceful, no tension, no heaviness. Nia sat beside him, eating from a paper bag of pastries. You're not who you were, she said. But you've never changed. Eli smiled. Maybe I just finally became me. A pelican swooped past, the sun glowing behind it. He hummed a tune, unwritten, unshared, for himself. Not every song needed an audience. Some were meant only to be felt. The storm had passed. The noise had faded. And what remained was the boy who never needed to yell to be heard. Weeks later, a music academy unveiled a scholarship in Eli's name for underdog musicians, often overlooked and unheard. He visited the school quietly, no press, no entourage. In the hallway, a girl about 13 nervously clutched a beat-up ukulele. She froze seeing him. Are you Eli? She whispered. He nodded. You play? He asked. She nodded back, wide-eyed. Want to show me? She hesitated, then slowly began strumming. Not perfect, but sincere. Eli listened fully, nodding along, then gave her a high five. You've got a voice. Keep using it. That moment would go on to shape her future. And Eli's too. Because it reminded him why he started. Not for stages. Not for streams. But to light the match for someone else still finding their spark. And so the story didn't end with applause or lights, but with one final image. Eli, years later, on a modest stage in a small-town auditorium. Not famous anymore, just real. He played for a room of 50, kids, parents, quiet dreamers. And when he finished, he set his guitar down and said, never let noise drown your voice, even if they laugh, especially if they laugh. The crowd clapped, not wildly, but deeply. A slow, meaningful wave of hands meeting hands. Somewhere in the back, a teenager held a phone, recording quietly. The footage would go viral. But that's not why Eli played. He played because a long time ago someone tried to break him. And instead, they revealed him. Not the boy who was mocked, but the man who never stopped playing.